Hello there guys, today we're going to be looking at a Primaris Lieutenant and how to paint it for your first miniature. This guy's a great first miniature to actually use because it's a space marine and has loads of open panels for you to try out some stuff. So let's get on to the process. First of all, we're going to start off with the primers. Now primers, you can use various different ones. You can use Vellajo primer through an airbrush, that does take a while to dry, Raven Black, Chaos Black, or a Combral spray. Any of them work as long as it's an acrylic spray like I am doing here. Shake it well and spray it from a distance. Make sure you get a nice even coverage and just short, sharp blasts. Then base coat. Base coat you can use various colours. So these are just mainly acrylics. So you can use Vellajo, Warpaint Fanatic, or Citadel colours. Any of these work. Today I'm going to be using the Warpaint Fanatic range, which is going to be Royal Blue, and just doing some base coating on the Lieutenant. Now as you can see, I'm going around this very nice and slowly. I'm going to be thinning my paint down, not loads, just so it still covers nicely, and just go over all of the armor panels. Now base coating is a very important part of this process because we're going to be hitting every part of the model with a base coat at some stage. Now I'll tell you the colours as I go on, but the main idea is the process that you're going to get a first pass of this. It should look like this. It's going to look chalky, it's not going to look great. Then we do another layer of thin down paint, and there you go. It's going to come out very smooth. It's going to come out lovely. And then we're going to go on some Retributed Gold. This Retributed Gold just goes on all of the gold bits that I want. So it's going to go on the Aquila, it's going to go onto the shoulder trim, all those good things on my little halo at the top. And those are the main things you're going to be hitting with this. Gold's one of these colours as well that doesn't really cover incredibly well, so you will need to go for 2 coats of this and thin your paint down, because if you use gold and you don't thin the paint down and go for 2 coats, it will come up with a texture, which is not what you want for your miniature. So yeah, here we are going for the first pass. We're going to be hitting all the gold bits. I've decided to go for the hilt as well, because hey, why not? This is a good place to go for. On the back as well, I went for the end of the sword in its scabbard, which is going to be great. And yeah, so then on the silvers, we're just going to pick up some Vellajo silver. I think this is literally just the Vellajo Air range, which weirdly it covers really well, the Vellajo metallic. And we're just covering the area in the middle as well, which with some silver, so the chain links. And then on the back, we're going to go for those vents as well with this same silver, just so it gets filled in with the metallic. And then on the back, we're going to start to do some Hull Red. Hull Red is from the AK range. It's a really good base coat for browns and red, to be honest. So I use this quite a lot. So as you can see, it's covering the bone, the pouches, and the red. And then over here, we're going to be going in with some Augr Blue from the Warpaints range, which is basically like an off-white, just to fill in the gaps which we want to be white. This has very good coverage. It'll be able to go over in 2 coats. It's effectively Korax white from the Citadel range, but this I think is just a little bit better. It just has a better coverage, and it just has a slightly different hue, which means which I like for this miniature. And then here I'm just painting the skull with the Augr Blue as well. Again, any white bits, you can cover this reasonably with 2 coats. And then we're going in with the Hull Red on this little shield to fill in the other side, so we can create this little square on each side, which I saw that was on the artwork, which I didn't really mind, so I wanted to do that. Then we're going to go on the other side, fill in the other square with the shield, try and keep this as neat as possible. Now this may take a couple of attempts, because sometimes if you mess up you want to try and start again, but just go for it, it's fine, take your time. Then we're going to be going around all the bone areas. With this we're just going with Zandri dust as a base coat, going around all the areas which we want to have bone. Again, this might not take 2 coats, so well, you want to take it 2 coats anyway, just to make sure it's nice and smooth. Go around all the purity seals, go around everything that you want to go through. And then here we've picked up a nice burgundy, which I'm going to be using a mix of wicked pink and a bit of that blue originally, just as a base coat, just so it covers a little bit better. And I'm going to go through all the purity seals with this colour, and this will take a couple of coats, but once you've done it, it's fine. Okay, now that we've got all of our base coats down, we're going on to shading. So there's different shades you could use. You can use the Vellajo Game Colour washes, you can use the Citadel washes, or you can use the Warpaint Fanatic tones, all of which are very good at what they do. For this, I'm going to be using the GW ones. So it's going to be using, first of all, Druchi Violet on all of the blue, and then I'm going to be using Seraphim Sepia on all of the gold. As you can see at the moment, I'm doing the gold first, which I'm letting that dry so that the purple won't mix into it. I would recommend going with this 1 step at a time when you do this, so don't try and put all of your washes on the model at the same time. If they mix together and they go into each other's recesses, then it can ruin the effect. So here I'm just going to be applying Seraphim Sepia over everything. This is a very basic paint job for gold, but I think it comes out okay, especially if you want to just, achieve that nice quick effect. So as you can see, I'm just going around everything here. Now we're picking up the Druchi Violet, and we're going around all of the blue. Now weirdly, a purple wash is actually really nice for a blue. It really shades everything out really well. I do sometimes thin down my washes if I want a weaker effect, and if I just want to sort of mainly aim for the panel lines and all that sort of thing, because it will just mean that you don't have such a strong impact on the colour that you've already worked hard to maintain. And here, as you can see, I'm just applying the Druchi Violet, and there's areas that you'll spill over the gold, which is going to be the tiny areas on the gold, but I wouldn't worry too much about those. The impact is going to be negligible. Then we're going to be picking up some Nuln oil. Nuln oil is a great wash. It's a black wash that you can apply on most colours, but I love it for metallics, so I'm going to be putting it over all of the the silver areas, just to give it a nice shade. Then highlighting. Highlighting is something that everyone tries to do and tries to master. I am still working on it myself. Now, I'm going to show you how my approach to this. Now, I start with the base colour that I go with, choose a colour to work up to, and this sometimes will involve colours that you work up to in between. So, for example, if you're working on pink, you can go for like the Royal Blue to Wicked Pink to Pink Potion to Pixie Pink, which from the Warpaints and Fanatic range is a really nice transition, which is, as long as you maintain a solid layer between each layer, then it will blend really nicely and it will give a really nice effect. Now here on the bone, I'm going to be going with the Hull Red, followed by some Zandri Dust, followed by some Screaming Skull, followed by some white, which I see the result is there. And sometimes I choose to do a little glaze with the Seraphim Sepia to achieve the effect. And here I'm going to be using some Blood Red from the AK range, which is really, really vibrant. So what I like to do is thin this down and just do a couple of passes and sort of allocate more light each time, allocate in a smaller area each time I apply it, which will give this effect that it's catching light in a meaningful way. So that's what I'm going to try and do on the shield, as you can see. Then on the back, we're going to be doing the same here. Now, if you're working on something like this, it's sometimes interesting how to actually highlight this. What I like to do is create texture, like I'm doing with my brush there, and just sort of drag the brush across and try to create scratches as if it's like red leather and it's got some texture from actually being used. And over here, as you can see, what I'm going to be doing is applying a white highlight on this, and I'm going to be doing a really thin Cygor brown wash. When I say white, it's not really white, it's just Screaming Skull, and then it's going to be going over with a nice glaze of Cygor brown, which will be a really nice effect for this leather pouch for his little pistol. So yeah, as you can see, the wash goes over, and suddenly, like magic, all of that smooths out, and it's caught the edges. It's like a miniature Zenith on a tiny little bolt pistol pouch, which seems to work quite nicely. Okay, now we're going to be on to our first pass highlight onto the blue. Now, first of all, I'm going to be using Regal Blue again. So Regal Blue is going to go over again to fill out all the areas that I might have, gone over with the purple a little bit too much, and I'm going to thin this down right down because it won't take much to cover this over, because I did thin down the Druchi Violet, and just apply it over most of the areas, leaving that shaded area in the recesses. Now here, I'm not going to be edge highlighting everything around. Now, when you're just starting miniature painting, that can be a very daunting task. Now, if you want to get into that straight away, then power to you. But here, as you can see in the actual first pass, I'm going to be adding a bit of Augr Blue to the Regal Blue. And what I'm doing is really trying to choose my light placement. So as you can see, I'm sketching highlights in the areas that I would like the highlights. So that doesn't mean going around every edge, and sometimes it does mean going around the edge, like I'm going around the head here. But I'm trying not to spend too much time painstakingly going around every edge highlight, because even though yes, it can look good, but it's not everyone's style. And it's also, this is just an alternative way of doing it. If you're painting your first miniature, it can be daunting to try and do that, and this will give you a really nice effect for a lot less skill difference. And here we're going to be adding a little bit more Augr Blue, and as you can see on each side of the arm panels, I do aim to just do a thin highlight on either side of the arm. But on this backpack like this, as you can see, I'm painting into a nice line, which is where the light will catch, and then going round onto the the rounded joints onto the backpack, and trying to fill out the highlights that way. And effectively, you just repeat this process, adding a little bit more of the Augr Blue, and just paint over a smaller area, which with your paint thin down. Now, if the first layer that you've done, which is just the Regal Blue plus a little bit of the Augr Blue, this wants to have a nice solid coat before you go onto the edge highlights, or before you go onto the final highlight. As you can see here, we're going to be going on to the plasma. So we're going to start with Caliban Green here. This is a nice little recipe for green, and then we're going to go Warpstone Glow, catching all the top edges, and then we're going to go on to some Moot Green. Now, this is a really nice, simple, and here's the Moot Green. This is a really nice, simple way of doing plasma early on. This is the way that I used to paint plasma, and still an effect I do now, especially when I'm painting. Here, we're just going to catch the eyes with a little bit of white, because, we've got to paint space to be nice. And a nice cheat code for this is that you literally just apply some Makmadroth Flame from the GW range. Now, you don't have to be, massively accurate with this, because if it spills over a smidge onto the head, it'll give the effect that it's glowing, which is not the worst thing in the world. And there you go. That's the actual Marine finished. So onto basing. This guy had a base that I made originally with some corks, with some cork bark. So all I do with this, with the cork bark and some sand on it and stuff, is to completely cover it with this whole red. This whole red is actually just more like a brown. So I apply everything onto Beast Brown with a mix of Zandri dust, and then apply that everywhere. Now I'm using an old brush here. I know it's criminal that it's an arched opus, but it was ruined, so it now has a different use. So now we just catch all of the top surfaces with this. Nice and easy. And there you have it. You have our first Space Marine. So this guy is a really cool model, guys. I got him in a nice little magazine. If you want to see more stuff like this, or more detailed analysis on basing and all that sort of thing, please do let me know in the comments. Yeah, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe, guys. It really helps the algorithm. And yeah, so thanks, guys. Much love.